minutes, and then we're gonna move on. Alright, we're going to go ahead and get started. Alright, the notes today aren't terribly wordy or anything like that. There's not going to be a whole lot you'll have to write down. We're going to talk about the Beat Generation, or the Beatniks, what are they called? This is it's the very beginning of the 60s counterculture. So if you think of like the 1960s, like the Beatles, the Doors, acid rock, basically sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Like, this is the very beginnings of that. The Beat Generation, it mainly centers around a group of writers during the late 50s and the 60s. So it started after World War II. The group of writers we're going to talk about, they were all really close friends in college. Moved to San Francisco when the 60s started happening. San Francisco was kind of the epicenter where everybody moved to. This generation, the things they were writing, the things that they were doing were in complete opposition to how the 50s were. So remember that video we watched that showed like the Leave It to Beaver video with the prim and proper 1950s house, prim and proper husband and children. That was very much what the 50s were, and this kind of came out, I guess, was the complete opposite of that. So they were moving away from society's traditions. You don't really have to write any of these. We're going to talk about the fact that they're writers, so I'm not going to make you write that several times. I want write down beats, beatniks, opposed traditionalism of the 50s. Just write that down. But yeah, I refer to being beaten down, and it later got changed to they're called the beatniks. They were really well known for having poetry recitation in public. And as we're going to listen to one of the poems in a little bit, and that listening to it will give you a really good idea of why this was such a big deal for them to be doing it in public. But they, like I said before, they spoke out against pretty much everything the 50s represented. They spoke out against materialism and encouraged free thinking. The 50s were very much like the way it was put out, like, if you were a man, you were going to go to school, you were going to graduate, you were going to get a job, you were going to have a family, and that was going to be your life. If you were a woman, you were going to go to school, you were going to graduate, you were going to get married, have babies, and be a housewife. That is what was instilled. That was the traditional ideal. That is what was told was going to be your life. And it was kind of like almost an assembly line of people. Like, they wanted you to go to school, get married, have families, and that was it. That's all they wanted you to do. They didn't want this free thinking, and this movement encouraged that to make decisions for yourself, to not just do what society wants you to do. And during the time, the beatnik term, it was very much a stereotype. So if you think of like the term hipsters today, that refers to a very certain, if, you were to talk about, a male hipster, you would assume, like a beard with the glasses, and, they usually have the tattoos and suspenders. They dress like a very certain way. Well, that's how these were. They, berets, dark glasses, black clothing. Most of the men had not, full beards, but, you see, I don't know what you call that kind of facial hair, but just that part though, no mustache, no nothing else. If you've ever seen in the movies where it's been the 60s and you have the woman that's standing there in the dress and it's all black and she has the beret and the glasses and they're usually reciting poetry and snapping along with it. That is very much their beatniks. That's what they were. Alright, so this is part I do want you to write. You don't have to completely write everything, but just get down and experiment with drugs, artistic lifestyle, Buddhism, experimented with sexuality. This is when drugs really started to become prominent in American culture. I think acid was pretty much the big one they were experimenting with during this time. They practiced a very artistic lifestyle. They were all about, poetry, and we're going to look at art. We're going to look at how much art changed here in a little bit. Most of them began kind of moving away from Christianity and practicing Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, and this is the first time I really saw society experimenting with sexuality. Like we talked about, what you were supposed to do is go to school, get married. Women, it was not men, women, you didn't have sex before you were married, nothing like that. That was very much considered taboo, something that didn't happen. And this is the first time people were starting to do that. They were, sexuality was, I'm trying to think how to appropriately describe all of it. This is the first time you started seeing women walking around exposing more flesh, showing their midriff, showing more of their bodies. You had people openly talking, not waiting until marriage. That's the first time we saw that. Kind of how if you turn on the TV today, almost every other commercial, there's going to be a half-naked lady in it, or there's going to be, people making out, or, any movie now has sex scenes, all throughout it. Like, that was not how it was back then. Everything was very traditional, and this is when we started seeing it move away from that. Yeah. And this is what leads to the 60s counterculture movement. These are the very beginnings of hippies. All right, so this is the first of the beatniks. I want you to write it down. This is Jack Kerouac. He's probably easily the most famous writer to come out of this time period. He's a co-founder of the Beat Generation.
Wait, he played off Ninja Turtles. Ooh.
Is he in the Ninja Turtles?
Yeah. Wait.
I
look like him.
Well, this is a picture of him from the 50s and the 60s.
He did, huh?
I don't know if he's still alive. I think he's dead. A lot of the people from this time period are. Alright, so make sure you get his right now. His name will be on the next slide, so I'm going to go ahead and move on.
Oh, wait, now my it's Will Arnett. Did he look like him?
Yeah, he does, kind of. On the Road is his most famous book. I do want you to write the name of the book down. It was based on the travels him and his friends. There's a lot of drug use. About on the other slide. They made a movie based off this book called On the Road, and we're going to watch the trailer for the movie.
I first met Dean not long after my father died. I was a young writer, trying to take off. Dean just raced in society. He had just married a 16-year-old chick named Mary Lou. Becoming a Dean Moriarty began the part of my life you could call my life on the road.
To the old man and to the west.
Yes, yes, yes!
Bless me, Father, for I will sin.
You find some absolutely wonderful people.
Hop in, water's fine.
Don't do anything I wouldn't do.
God help me, these people are mad.
Who does not feel responsibility towards others? I don't know what's wrong with me. I do all these dumb things. And I think in all these distorted ways. I'm burning up.
You're sick of me, and you're sick of work.
Scared I'm gonna lose all the wisdom I ever learned, so.
I never want to see her. The end of the world will start here in Texas.
Somehow, Dean reminded me of some long-lost brother. I began to learn from him as much as he probably learned from me. I stand bereft as usual as I have done my whole life back to the people that interested me. Because the only people that interest me are the mad ones. The ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, desirous of everything at the same time. The ones that live in a commonplace thing. That burn like Roman candles across the night.
Alright, so that's a trailer for the movie that was based off of his book. And you can kind of see there was some, maybe not by today's standards, but by the 50s standards, some pretty suggestive things in it. And that's how they wrote. Like, their writings were extremely controversial for the time period. Alright, this is Allen Ginsberg. I want you to write his name down. And I want you to just write the name of the scene. So he wrote a poem called Howl, and we're going to watch. Let me see what. I believe we're going to watch a clip, the trailer. Yeah, the trailer for the movie Howl, and then we're actually going to listen to part of the one of his poems to give you an idea of it. But yeah, he wrote a lot of his poetry was banned for being way too obscene. Alright, let y'all finish writing, and then we're gonna watch.
You started writing poetry. Why don't you tell me how you started writing poetry?
I started writing poetry because I fell love and I needed to express my feelings.
I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked.
Would you say that Howl, the poem by Ginsberg, is obscene?
Yes.
Holy, holy, holy.
If it has any literary value, it's negligible.
Holy Kerouac, holy Cassidy, who blew and were blown by the human seraphim.
You feel like you're going through the gutter when you read that stuff.
Now, you understand what blue and blown mean.
I realized that poetry is a rhythmic articulation of feeling.
What is obscenity to whom? In Ginsberg's life,
Apparently, it's not this kind of rhythm.
Oh, skinny legions, run outside!
there are books that have the power to change men's minds.
The eternal war is here!
Let there be no running from non-existent destroyers of morals.
Oh, victory!
Let there be light.
We're free!
What is the Beat Generation?
There's no beat generation. Just a bunch of guys trying to publish.
Alright, so yeah, that's a trailer for the movie that was made based on his life. Alright. So we're gonna have a few more seconds, and we're gonna go on to the next one and watch that over here. So we're going to talk about his poem Moloch. It's part of Howl. Just write down the name of the poem, and I want you to write that he foresaw destructive forces of capitalism and conformity. So we're going to listen to part of this poem. One of the other teachers sent me the clip. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know what part of the poem it is. It's a really long poem. Just a forewarning, Ginsberg's poems, when it talks about them being banned for obscene, they're still very much obscene by today's standards. So just a warning, if you don't like or might get offended, you can put your headphones in. Something. Because it is I don't think it's the worst part of it. But basically, Ginsberg thought capitalism was horrible. He wasn't a communist or anything like that, but he foresaw the fact that when you let this economy just go, that you allow people to become super, super rich and people to become super, super poor. And for the poor people to become slaves to capitalism. We're working and working and working, and all we're doing is making the rich richer and making us poorer. Is the way they looked at it. He also was very much against conformity, which you can see that just in those 2 clips that we watched. You know, they were very much not conforming to